good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome space architect and founder of the Space Tourism Society, John Spencer. So welcome, John.
Well, thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Thank you. So, John, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you share with us how your passion for Mars and the space journey started?
Sure. So I was 13 years old when the Apollo 11 first moon landing mission happened.
Wow.
So I was very excited about that. At the same time, there was the TV show Star Trek and the movie 2001 had come out in 1968. So as a young person, I was always interested in science and space and design, and saw those things I could mix together and become an outer space architect. So that was the course I started on. And I'm just very thankful to have had a unique career in these areas. And it's just getting better and better and more exciting all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with what's going on with SpaceX and NASA and everything now. So as an outer space architect, author of space and future themed experience design and developer, can you please elaborate on this and share with us more about this, so the audience can get a better understanding?
Sure. So being an outer space architect means you work with NASA and other groups on design of real space missions, vehicles, moon bases, Mars bases. And I apply my background as an architect to all those issues.
Yes.
In parallel to that, I'm also involved in the themed entertainment industry, designing theme parks, themed entertainment complexes, science museums. I'm currently designing a proposed $2 billion project called Mars World for Las Vegas.
Wow.
And what's happened is working on real space projects and having a basic understanding of real space and the physics and design and engineering, I can apply that to my themed entertainment projects. So they're more authentic, more realistic. And the entertainment projects provide a lot of funding, but also promotion for the real space programs and space enterprise and space tourism. So there's a great synergy between the real space world and the entertainment space world. That's happened for decades, from Walt Disney promoting space forward.
Wow, it's incredible. So what would you say some of your biggest lessons and learnings have been within your career?
I would say the biggest one is the power of great ideas.
Yes.
And this is really important, is that I come from a modest background, but I have had many, what you might say, big ideas. Large-scale space themed entertainment projects, starting the Space Tourism Society, the idea of modeling space yachts over ocean yachts and so forth. And those ideas have introduced me to amazing people and allowed me to travel around the world because people were interested in those ideas.
Yes.
So I want to let everyone know that great ideas are powerful and they are opportunities for anyone, and anyone can have a great idea.
Yes, of course, but it's the execution of it, right?
Well, I'm also very organized and very practical, and as an architect, you kind of learn your right and left brain to begin with, because you can create stuff and then design and get it built. So I've always been in a good position to implement many of my ideas.
Yes. So since the late 1970s, you have been one of the very few designers pioneering the field of outer space architecture. So can you share with us more about this and what this means, and how did you expand in 1982 into pioneering the space tourism industry, basing it on the cruise line industry?
Sure. Well, I have lots of stories in the early days, late 70s, where I would attend an aerospace conference, for example, and all the engineers and scientists would say, "You're an architect, why are you here?" I mean, "Why are you here?" I got that a lot. But I was absorbing information and reading and learning about real space things. And I am not an engineer. So, and I don't need to be, because our engineers create these places, but you have to design the interiors and the operations and the colors, and to make them very human oriented, so that the crews are happy and healthy. In terms of space tourism, as I said earlier, I'm very practical. So I realized that in the early 80s, if we want to have a vibrant space industry and settlements in space, that space tourism would be a key part of that, because people will spend huge amounts of money, and they have, to fly to space to fulfill a life dream. And then that means you need space hotels, and you need space lunar bases. You need all those elements that complement the high-end tourism industry. And the cruise line was a great model, because cruise ships are big technical devices that take people out into an extreme environment, the ocean. They have a good, fun time. The cruise lines make money, and they bring them back. In parallel is my concept and plan to establish the space yachting industry and community, because that's a totally different type of economic system. Ocean super yachts and mega yachts exist not to make money. They cost huge amounts of money. There's 4 of them on the ocean that cost $1 billion to design and build. And they're usually expensive to operate. Their profit is social profit. The pride, prestige, social standing, reward, gifting, all of those things, why the yachts exist. And that will be the same for space.
Yes, of course. Makes sense. So you founded the Space Tourism Society back in 1996. What was the motivation behind this, and why was it so important back then to create the STS?
There was a few of us talking about space tourism as a viable business in the future. This is back in 1996. Actually, I started really promoting all this in 1982, so it's been about 40 years almost.
Yes.
We wanted to have an organization where we could collaborate and work together, and eventually host meetings, and eventually raise money as a nonprofit organization. And I modeled it after National Geographic Society, because it's very media oriented. But back in the early 80s, people laughed very hard at space tourism as a concept. They really did.
Yes.
But I knew someday it was going to work. And I thought it'd be 20 or 30 years before the first space tourist flew. It turned out to be 19, when in April 28th, 2001, Dennis Tito, very wealthy friend of ours, was the first person to fly as a private space traveler, space tourist. He paid the Russians $10 million for a ride on a Russian capsule to the space station, spent a week there, had a great time, and then returned to Earth. And since then, 7 other people have paid up to $40 million to do the same thing. Yeah. And just last week, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Dennis Tito's flight at our first ever space tourism conference, which was pretty successful. And our theme was, what's the next 20 years for space tourism, space experience? So we'll be having the conference every year from now on here in Los Angeles as a physical conference, but also we're getting into a lot of media, and we're essentially starting the space tourism channel. This is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a big focus on Mars, as we can see that SpaceX and NASA want to make this a reality for the future of space tourism. Many would ask why Mars, as it's a very inhospitable place. So what is the objective and the motivation for wanting to pursue Mars? And can you please share with us more about this?
Sure. Well, Mars is a planet. It's actually a smaller sister planet to Earth, in that it's the same materials at planet Earth.
Yes.
And billions of years ago, Mars had an atmosphere, lakes and oceans. And with that atmosphere, much more radiation shielding. So it's very likely, not for sure, but very likely that there was primitive life on Mars billions of years ago. So if we explore Mars, we'll learn more about the Earth, but also we may make that fundamental discovery of finding physical evidence there was past life on Mars, which would be one of the greatest stories in human history. But it's also an exciting place to go to explore, to discover things. And the inner nature of humanity, humans, is to explore. That's why we spread around the entire world. Now we're spreading out into the solar system, and eventually we'll go beyond our solar system. That's inherent and healthy and wonderful and noble for humans to explore. And Mars is a very interesting place to explore.
Amazing. So over $300 million has been invested in building space future sci-fi themed concepts, as well as currently developing a proposed $2 billion Mars World attraction / resort in Las Vegas, which is obviously incredible. So can you share with us more about this, and what is the objective around this theme-based resort?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier, ideas are powerful. So in 1982, besides starting space tourism research and development, I had an idea for a project I called Space Resort, which would have been a highly immersive space experience as though you've gone into Earth's orbit. And I'm very practical, as I mentioned, and in Los Angeles, LA is very oriented towards ideas and intellectual property, the attorneys, the financing, all that. So we raised millions of dollars. I learned how to raise money. Then we got 200 million in Japan to build a project called Space World, which was basically Space Resort, but condensed a little bit. Since then, I've raised millions of other dollars because space is so interesting and popular for other projects. Science Fiction Hall of Fame, for example, a Star Trek theme park proposal. So I've learned how to put teams together and to raise money and to start stuff based on ideas. Mars World is something I created over a decade ago. And the idea is to create a city of the future on Mars. So the core theme is actually the future, an exciting, vibrant, great, healthy, beautiful future. Happens to be an exotic location on Mars. And this is a next generation theme park we call Experience Park. And the direction for location-based entertainment is creating worlds. In other words, inventing worlds, world building. So you create a whole culture. Examples are Star Wars or Star Trek or Avatar, Harry Potter. So we're inventing a futuristic, vibrant, exciting, inspiring Martian culture, which will be our actors and actresses portraying the Martians, inside this giant dome. And that's going to be a Mars World attraction with resort, entertainment, all the stuff you'd have if you were in a city, but it just happens to be on Mars in the future. So if we succeed, we'll build one in Las Vegas. We've had discussions in China. We're talking in Saudi Arabia, Orlando. So we want this to be something we can make a number of these over the next 20 years or so. And in doing so, making a lot of money doing it, inspiring a lot of people and careers in space, and accelerating the real space industry and real Mars exploration.
Yeah, and would you also look at countries like Dubai?
Well, Dubai's overbuilt for themed entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, but Japan's a potential location also. So the trends for us, my company, is very good, both in fact that real space, space enterprise, space tourism is dramatically growing. It's very exciting and billions of dollars are being invested in it. And themed entertainment is moving towards invented worlds, and the future and space and Mars are popular themes that will only become more popular. We like to say every day, this is very true, we're closer to the days when humans will walk on Mars for the first time. And all of that enhances our Mars World brand. So we own the trademark Mars World.
That's incredible. So I want to touch on you becoming an author during your passion for space. So was this a natural transition for you, or was it a challenge?
Big challenge. I'm not a writer, I'm a designer. So I wrote the first book, and I had help with that, published in the United States on space tourism. So I had to literally, over a 5-year period of writing this book, invent the industry overall, again, modeled after cruise line, for example. And I would get up very early on weekdays and spend a couple hours working. And I always remember my feet were always cold for some reason. That's a very solid memory. But it came out in 2004, and it gives you a big background on space and space tourism and entertainment and all those elements. I'm working on a second edition to the book, which will have even more focus on my concept and design for a real orbital super yacht called Destiny. That will be featured in my second edition of the space tourism book. It was really, really hard to do, but I knew I had to do it, and I just basically sucked it up and did it. It took 5 years.
Wow, that's incredible. So when raising hundreds of millions of dollars for such a highly ambitious project or many projects, how challenging is this, and where do you even start to look for this type of funding? And can you share with us more about that process?
Oh, sure. Well, fundraising is a frustrating process, but it's very well known how you raise money. And fortunately, in the United States, there's a whole ecosystem of when someone has an idea, they can raise money with friends and family, and then angel investors, and then midterm investors, and eventually, if it's technology, venture capitalists, or if it's real estate investment bankers. So there's a whole ecosystem that wants great ideas, great ventures that are highly scalable. They can just grow to become hugely valuable. And the core of all that is having a great team, and a team very experienced in the particular industry that you are in. So I learned all this over many, many years. Again, we always had the advantage of being space oriented, so people would always pay attention at least. They might not invest, and most don't, but enough do that you can create companies and build from there.
Yes. So what would you say some of your biggest career highlights have been?
Well, when I first figured out Space Resort, that was one of those moments where, oh, wow, I had all the vision, all the architect design all fell into place. And I started promoting it with friends and people. Even the dean of the School of Architecture, I was still doing my master's in, became a partner and investor in Space Resort. So that launched my career in terms of going beyond being a designer architect into also being a developer, because no one was going to develop my ideas unless I did it myself.
Yeah.
And that has been very, very frustrating, difficult sometimes. Sometimes we fail, but sometimes we succeed. So it's like a treasure hunt, the way I liken it, to raising money. But I've gotten pretty good at it. And again, Los Angeles is a great place to raise money, but also just the two areas of real space and space entertainment together today is better than ever before. And Mars is such a great theme. As I said, it'll only get more and more real as we actually send people eventually within a decade to Mars. And even the tragedies, we'll lose people doing that. That's all part of the adventure, the exploration, and the major story of our lifetimes is humanity moving outward in the solar system.
Which I think is the same thing like Elon often talks about, that we need to be able to be multi-planetary.
That's true. That's actually true. But that's something that over many generations will inevitably happen. But it's the spirit of exploration, of adventure, of trying noble, exciting, hard, difficult things and succeeding, even if you fail sometimes. It's trying and being out there and trying to make the world a better place.
Yes, absolutely. So you've been quoted in the media, from TV to magazines to other formats. Do you believe that this helped open the doors to other career opportunities? And if so, can you share with us?
Sure. Yeah, I've done well over 250, probably now close to 300 interviews over the last, say, 25 years in all media. And that promotes my ideas, promotes the businesses we're in, promotes the whole atmosphere of the space future experiences. And I'm always talking about everyone who's listening on a show, they can be involved. You can join space organizations. You could bring your ideas and your talent, your energy, your money to being part of this vibrant, exciting space community. So doing media spreads the word. It really expands your network significantly. And most reporters on all media find the subject matter of space and future pretty interesting. And space tourism in particular, because space tourism relates to you, people. Someday maybe you can go. Eventually we have famous people going, and honeymoons in space and all those types of things.
That would be fun. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, when you talk about going to the moon, honeymoon actually brings in a whole new discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Could even have weddings on there, maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure.
So COVID-19 has impacted all our lives in many ways, both positive and negative. How has this personally impacted you? And what have you had to do to adapt? And can you give us any examples?
Sure. Well, fortunately for me, I have a design studio and office in my home.
Yes.
When we finance big projects, we hire large architect firms, engineering firms, all the big guys. But it all comes again from the idea, the concepts, and all that. So it didn't affect me too much having a design studio and office in my home.
Yeah, because you were already doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. We all got very used to Zoom calls and Zoom meetings. My wife, Pamela, is a tenured professor at USC School of Cinematic Art to teach screenwriting for television.
Oh, wow.
And she was able to continue her classes at USC over Zoom and get the scripts, sent to her, and that worked out pretty well for her as well. Now, we always miss going to restaurants or seeing friends, but we stayed pretty isolated for basically a year.
Yes.
But at that time, space really grew, with SpaceX actually going into service of bringing astronauts to and from the space station. All these ventures starting to get more funding. Last 2020 was actually a very good year for space enterprise and space tourism, and this year's becoming even better, which is why we hosted the Space Tourism Conference. So we were not terribly impacted. Unfortunately, none of us that I know got sick with COVID, so we were careful but got through it, and it shows how adaptable people really are.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So you're also an advisor on space-themed movies and TV shows. Can you tell us more about this, and how did this opportunity come about?
Sure. Actually, really since the early 80s, I've been known for the space architecture, space work, and people in the entertainment industry who want to do a space movie usually find out from NASA or someone who can advise us on the design of a space station or a moon base. And quite often the NASA friends would tell them about me being in Los Angeles. And I just advised lots of movies. I've done stuff for almost all the studios. Spent a year and a half with Jim Cameron off and on, helping him with his Mars movie he's yet to do. But I got to know Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, quite well. So I get called in to be the outer space architect advisor, and in a lot of ways the futurist for a lot of movies, TV shows, computer games, those kind of things.
That's incredible. So it's really diverse. I mean, you could pretty much do anything.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun doing that. And about a decade ago, a group was formed by the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C. And it's called the Science and Entertainment Exchange, based here in Los Angeles. And I'm their senior space advisor futurist, and done about 30 or 40 advisors for movies and TV through them. But I was doing it myself before the exchange started. And what the exchange does is connects movie directors, television producers, writers, screenwriters, production designers with scientists and engineers. So the quality of that science, whatever it is, linguistics, biology, space architecture, is better in media ventures. So that's also spread my own being known in this area. And we're in developing the Mars World project. We're going to have a lot of our friends which are pretty high level people in the entertainment industry, collaborate with us for eventually Mars World movies and TV shows and all those kind of things. So I call it playing in Hollywood, but it's really important because it gets at the story of humans moving outward to a wider audience base.
Yes, absolutely. Well, also, I think from a factual perspective and, getting people's facts and information, because you also don't want people, whether it's a movie or not, giving, misleading facts about, some of the things that are important. So I guess that's a key thing too.
Sure, and it's also been a forum where I'm able to push even some of the top movie producers and TV guys a bit forward more in their own thinking about the future of space and space enterprise and space tourism, space sports. And that's somewhat influential because that's where those messages get out through the entertainment media.
Yes, absolutely. So your fusion of real space design and entertainment space design provides unique capabilities to your clients and your own ventures. So can you share with us more about this for those who don't know?
Sure. Well, different industries have different languages and culture and background and expectations. The space industry certainly does. The entertainment industry certainly does. And the kind of middle ground in that area is the themed entertainment industry, where people physically get up and go to a science museum or a space theme park or a Mars world, a space camp, Kennedy Space Center. So, like I said earlier, doing real space development and design and understanding some of the physics and issues about that helps me be more authentic in my entertainment projects. The entertainment projects promote the real space exploration, and there really is that fusion between both of them together. So we're able to be a bridge between those two worlds because I operate in both of them. I'm kind of unique in that position of understanding the real space world and the entertainment world and bringing them together.
Yes. So that leads me to the last question. What are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give to others looking to pursue a similar career, as well as what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered? Because I know some people don't like the word legacy, but how would you like to be remembered?
Sure. Well, particularly for young people, I advise them to get a big piece of paper and to lay out 100 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 30 years, 40 years. And look at that as a lifespan of at least 100 years and say, where do you want to be in 10, 20, 50 years, something like that? It usually shocks people, but it forces them to look at a bigger picture of their own lives. And a lot of people realize I have time to do some things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Secondly, not everybody does this, but if you can, focus on ideas, great ideas.
Yeah.
And when you have some of those ideas, focus on realizing them, whatever medium they are, art or engineering or finance. But ideas are powerful. They can take you amazing places and introduce you to amazing people. That's happened in my life.
Yes.
The third one is team building. It always comes down to networking and team building to get anything done, unless you're a writer, but you still need a team to edit and publish your book.
Yes.
But if you're going to do anything, it's relationship building, team building, being able to manage. Those 3 things. Look at the long-term life picture for yourself.
Yes.
Focus on ideas and team build, because that networking is what lets you implement your ideas.
Yes.
For myself, what I'd like to be remembered for is, in fact, great ideas and pioneering the space tourism industry, and particularly the idea of creating and launching the space yachting industry and community. And that I was a good guy, always trying to make the world a better place. So those are kind of the big picture of what I'm involved with. And I can guarantee you, if you do those things, look at your lifetime, focus on ideas, great ideas, and team build and network. Those are all things that everyone should do. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you can make the world a better place.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, John, for sharing today. It's really been very insightful and definitely learning for myself as well.
Sure.
So if people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
Well, the Space Tourism Conference, if you Google that, you'll find us.
Okay.
That's the best way to connect with me now.
Okay.
And I also want to say you asked some wonderful questions. You did your research.
Thank you.
You organized it in a way which was very logical. And I want to say I really respect how you put this together, and I want to say thank you for doing so.
Thank you. And hopefully we can have you back in the future to see where you are.
Sure, absolutely. We want to stay in touch with you and help out any way we can.
Thank you so much.
Sure.